Welcome on back to another episode of the Goonery. Today is March 13th. When you're listening to this, I don't know when it's going to be, but more than likely, Justin Fields will still be on the Bears. And Brandon, if you told me 3 weeks ago that on March 13th, Justin Fields would still be employed by the Chicago Bears, I would have asked, what were you on? And quite frankly, I'm asking Ryan Poles, what are you on? Because as they tend to say in the wrestling industry that both of us are fans of. I think Ryan Poles worked himself into a shoot here with his smoke screens, and now he's completely fucked.
Oh, so where do I start with Mr. Ryan Poles? It's frustrating to say the least of how this process is going because um, we saw last year around this time Ryan Poles ruled the NFL with an iron fist. He fleeced the Panthers, and everyone said that wow, this guy is an absolute genius. He can work and maneuver so many things around, and next thing you know, boom, we have ourselves two first round picks, and we got ourselves Montez Sweat. But now, when you buy into being the smartest guy in the room, you're bound to make a couple of mistakes along the way, and that's exactly what's going on here. And you know, I want to ask the football gods one question. For all that we have been hearing since, let's say, January about this quarterback conversation, why did you have to let this extend probably towards the draft? We are tired, we're sick of it, and we just want a resolution. But you said no. You said no. We're going to continue to have this conversation and keep having people, speculate about what the Chicago Bears are actually going to do. Because on one hand, you have people saying Fields is going to stay in the Chicago Bears uniform because Ryan Poles has not made it clear what he's going to do. Like any GM or head coach is clear about what they're going to do about any of their personnel. And then you have people on the other side who's actually the smart side who see the writing on the wall and know they're going to draft Caleb Williams with the number one pick in April. So right now, everything is frustrating. And we're going to talk about free agency, but this right here, there were people, and I'm pretty sure we was on the same page about this, that we were expecting the Bears to get a second round pick with Justin Fields. And I'm pretty sure Ryan Poles expected to get a second round pick with Justin Fields. But now, as it stands, you're probably going to get a fourth rounder for Justin Fields in a draft where you do not have a second rounder. That's the worst thing you could possibly ask for. The only solution right now is you trade back for number 9. But here's the conundrum you run into. You trade back for number 9, but what if Malik Neighbors is on the board? What if Roma Dunze is on the board? What are you going to do then? Yeah. If they're not on the board, it makes it easier to trade back. But if they are on the board, which, by the way, from today's signings, it seems incredibly likely that
it will be at least
one of the receivers will fall.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, there is no guarantees because the Giants may mess around and draft a wide receiver. The Chargers are most likely going to draft a wide receiver. So what's going to happen then?
It's very, very conflicting, right? Because I think it's an absolute no doubt yes. Caleb Williams is going to be a Chicago Bear. There's absolutely zero scenarios where Justin Fields is the starting quarterback on the Chicago Bears next year. I've been kicking it around, Brandon. Do they trade Fields for whatever they can get, and they're holding on to him right now, just hoping that price tag goes up? And do they trade back from 1 because they prefer Drake May over Caleb Williams?
So to answer your first question, they're going to have to trade him for whatever. And the fact of the matter is one thing that I think people aren't looking at because as of right now, if Fields gets traded in March, I'll be stunned. I will be genuinely stunned. If he gets traded after the draft, I wouldn't be, because after the draft, the quarterback conversation is going to become a little bit more clear. So, unfortunately, you don't want that, because you would rather have that before the draft to get another pick, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Now, to your second question, I I think there's a lot of fans that is doing a lot of mental gymnastics. Not talking about you, but there's a lot of fans that's doing a lot of mental gymnastics about Caleb Williams, whether he's bought in to the Chicago Bears, him being from the DC area, and what he want to play for the Chicago Bears. And what I would tell those people is, think about what you're weighing here. You're talking about playing for the Chicago Bears. You're talking about playing for the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders have been one of the most active teams in free agency. But no matter what, they're still an awful organization. You could change the owners, and it's still an awful organization.
Yep.
The Bears are not a very well-ran organization, but they have somewhat of competency that you could justify saying, hey, I'd rather play for the Bears than the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's the worst part about this draft process, is because you have these people like Colin Cowherd, who has no connections to Caleb Williams, saying he wouldn't want to play for the Bears. And my question to all of that is, where the hell did that even come from in the first place? When did the Chicago Bears become such an undesirable franchise, regardless of their shortcomings? Like, you could say that about some organizations, but in a city like Chicago, one of the premier cities in the United States of America, you're gonna tell me players don't want to play there? Come on now, let's use our heads. I know people want clicks. I know people want their show to be talked about or their article to be read, but let's use logic here. Caleb Williams, why wouldn't he want to play for Chicago?
I wholeheartedly agree, but I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. You just look at the history of Chicago Bears quarterbacks, even just in the past decade.
Mm-hmm.
You have had two first-round quarterbacks drafted who should have succeeded. Both of them should have succeeded, and now
Correct.
the jury's out on Mitch. Mitch sucks. He was a bust, and that was a flop. And not as many people would talk about that if Patrick Mahomes was not in that draft. End of the day,
Correct.
that's a fact. No one except for, I think it was Mike Mayock, maybe at the time, had Mahomes rated above Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, I don't know how Mitch Trubisky still has a job in the National Football League. But then you have a guy like Fields, who is, for my money, still the most naturally talented quarterback who has ever been a Chicago Bear. Ever.
Yep.
Do these guys just look at how they've been handled, regardless of the changing and coaching staff? Just, is there a legitimate feel behind these guys that there is a stink with the quarterback position for the Chicago Bears? Granted, if I'll say this, I want the Chicago Bears to draft Caleb Williams, but if there's an inkling of Caleb Williams with the Bears that he just doesn't want to be here, I don't want him, and I want a quarterback who wants to break the mold of what's gone wrong here in Chicago forever. And I think that is Caleb Williams. And if it's not, if it's Drake May, fine, let's roll with Drake May. I don't care if it's another North Carolina quarterback. And if it's Jaden Daniels, so be it. And you know what, I'm not going to go there with the fourth quarterback, but but it's just a very unique situation, because people can be saying, oh my God, it's Poles League again if he ends up trading this first overall pick. Because realistically, from everything I've seen, it's going to be three first-round picks, a couple other mid-round picks, and likely a player, a starter for that first overall pick. You weigh your options. I still think Caleb Williams is the pick, but there's just I'll say this: I do not envy Ryan Poles' position right now. I would not want to be him.
And you know what? You're right. I mean, I'm the point you made about any inkling that he may not want to be a Bear. I don't care if it's at a 5% chance he doesn't want to be a Bear. Trade the pick. Trade the pick. Send it to Washington and do what you got to do. Now, I've had some not nice things to say about Ryan Poles recently, and me being reactionary, like it happens. But I will say, because now we're gonna go into the conversation of free agency. What this reminds me of, and I don't know if you feel the same way. This feels like a 2022 approach with a 2023 budget.
Yes,
it feels like
yeah.
We are just like there is no reason at all that we should be bargain bin shopping in the first week of free agency. That's bad. That's really bad. And also, I understand price tags. You don't want to lock yourself up to bad contracts. That's why the Bears had to strip everything down and basically waste a year. I completely understand that. But what happened last year when you spent money? You took a jump. You took a step. You were a couple of games out from being in the playoffs. I'm sorry. If you are telling me that you want to compete, you go out and spend some damn money. Because I'm telling you, I don't give a damn if Caleb Williams has a good year and the Bears end the midst of the playoffs. You know what happens? Ryan Poles is going to lose his job. His job is on the line depending on how this team does next season. But maybe that isn't the case. Maybe that's what I would do. What I would do is completely different what they would do. But if I'm Poles, I would have a sense of urgency in knowing that if I don't add more guys, guess what? That 7-10 record can easily be 5-12 or 4-13. Like the way I want to see the urgency from him, because right now, as it stands right now, I'm being told that winning is not a priority next season. And granted, this is the official league year. This is the start of the official league year. There's a lot left to go, but there's a lot of guys off the board. And if you want to pair somebody on the edge, sure. What I mean, I don't know. You're gonna pair him with the number 9 pick. But what happens if Malik Neighbors is there? What happens if Roman Dunze is there? How will you have filled the wide receiver position before the draft? That's my concern. Because if not, we're gonna have another situation where a quarterback is going to struggle because he doesn't have weapons to throw to. And we do not want to see that again because we've seen it for the past 2 years. Granted, we got a number 1 receiver now. There's a difference between 2023 and 2022. But at the end of the day, outside of that, it wasn't good. It was not good.
Nope. And I mean, you had mentioned bargain bin in free agency this far. I think that amongst the bargain bin, there has been some good. I mean, obviously, you have the Jalen Johnson extension. I mean, you're getting him for just under 20 million a year for one of the premier cornerbacks in the league. I'm over the moon about that deal. I mean, I couldn't be happier. He obviously wants to be here, and I'm all in.
Word.
Yep, he did. And that's what I will say about Ryan Poles. He has been very calculated with what he says, and I will say at least 90 odd something percent of the time, I feel like he has always followed through on what he says, and I will respect him for that.
Right.
I mean, there hasn't been any other flash, but he went out and got Ryan Bates in a trade. I think that's a great depth piece. I think it gives you some options to where, yeah, you can. If you don't love a center in this year's draft, you can slot Bates in at center for this year, right? Do I love that move? No, but for I think $8 million the next 2 years, you take that. He's a great 6th offensive lineman, and obviously Poles wanted him before. I mean, I mean, that was the first offer he made. So I like that deal. It's valuable to have a good sixth offensive lineman. And granted, I don't think that the Bears have five good starting offensive linemen at this point yet. He's a strong option, right?
Yeah.
Will I miss the good of Eddie Jackson? Yes, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna miss the bad in that cap hit. So I so long, Bojack. You were fun while it lasted.
Mm-hmm.
The white hair, thank the fucking Lord. You're gone.
Yeah.
But the one I really there's two signings I really want to hit on. The first one, Gerald Everett. Just why? Why? I get he's played in Waldron's system. I get a goal this year was to get a competent second tight end. But why are we making a move for a backup tight end and making that a priority in free agency when you have all the fucking money in the world? You know,
It makes no sense.
I mean, it's just it's frustrating to me, man. And
Yeah.
he's fine. He that's exactly what he is. He's fine. He so is he better than what they've had the past year? I mean, yeah, but like it's not like Robert Tanyan was like he was fine too. You know, it just it's just an odd signing to me, man. Odd is the way I would describe that.
Yeah. The only reason why I would call it odd is the timing. That's it.
The
I to
timing
me,
is my issue exactly.
yeah, that's my issue because Gerald Everett was not going anywhere in free agency. Let's
No,
be very, very
no,
clear.
no.
But I will be honest, he's a good pass catcher. I I I don't have an issue with the signing. I don't have an issue with it. And truth be told, Robert Tonyan had a lot of bad than good last season. So you know what? Anything is an upgrade over him.
Yeah.
And Gerald Everett has been a starting tight end in this league. Getting him as a second tight end, I'm cool with that, man. I'm cool
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. I you summarized it better than I could have. It's just the timing of that is what frustrates me. Because
Right.
it makes you wonder, are they not prioritizing areas of higher need than the backup tight end at this point in time? But a signing that I like, but again, the timing is odd. DeAndre Swift for 3 years, 24 million, 8 years of pop.
I meant to text you about this.
I think that DeAndre Swift is a great fit for this offense. I think finally this past year you saw what he could do. I mean, he was he was a top 5 to 8 running back in football, I would argue,
Yeah.
in 2023. And it's just I look at it like there were just the way the running back market moved this quickly this year. I look at what Saquon got versus what Swift got. I get why they went with Swift. He has less miles on the tires. But if the Eagles thought he was that great, would they really be letting him walk? That's the way I look at it, man. And I think he's going to be very successful here. I'm not trying to dump on this signing. I just wish Poles would not have played his hand so fast with the way the running back market was. I mean, think about it. You're Aaron Jones for $7 million. I know he has I know he has injury struggles, but it's like I'll tell you, I would rather have Aaron Jones for 7 million than DeAndre Swift for 8. And
Agree.
I don't know the specifics on Josh Jacobs deal. I didn't want that. I did not want Josh
I think it was
Jacobs.
like 4 years, 44 million, something like that.
That speak
No,
just
thank you.
on that topic. I do not understand that deal at all whatsoever. But Joe Mixon going for a 7th round pick.
Insane.
I do I think he's a fit in this offense? No, but Joe Mixon is a damn good running back, and for a 7th round pick, sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up. Schematically, I think Swift is a perfect fit here. And I think it became very clear down the stretch last year that Roschon Johnson is not ready to be a bell cow back, which is okay.
Mhm.
Which is okay. He was a 4th round rookie, I believe, 4th or 5th round
Yeah.
rookie. And Khalil Herbert is exactly who, at least on this show, we all thought he was. He's a fine and adequate change of pace back, but he's not a 3 down guy. He just
Yeah.
he's poopy, and that's okay. That's okay. And I heard the rumors of Saquon, and a healthy Saquon Barkley might be my favorite player to watch in all of football. I just think when Saquon is healthy, what he's able to do with the football in his hand is just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. If I'll say this, if Saquon Barkley never destroyed his body, his knees, his ankles, we're talking about him being a top 5 running back of all time, and I don't think that that's crazy.
So, I hope my Eagle fan friends don't watch this episode because I'm going to say something that's probably going to be a little bit controversial. Saquon Barkley is not going to be the difference between the Eagles winning that championship or not. I'm gonna be honest with you. I
I
think,
agree. No, I agree with you. I
yeah,
wholeheartedly agree.
and the fact of the matter is that a splash like that is going to distract you from what the real issue was with the Eagles. And a running back was not the main issue of the Eagles. That offense was shitty.
Hey
And
man, hear me
maybe
out.
Kellen Moore.
Hear
Oh,
me
go ahead,
out.
go ahead.
Did they move on from DeAndre Swift because he wasn't good enough at the tush push, and that's why they brought in Saquon?
Who even knows?
You
Who
get
even
those big
knows?
ass quads behind Hurts. No, but no, I agree. There's a whole lot more issues. If I was the Philadelphia Eagles, I'd be spending $13 million a year a lot differently.
Oh yeah, 100%. And go back to Saquon. Here's the thing. I think he's an incredible running back. But one thing that being from the tri-state area, and I would always question Giants fans. You like Saquon Barkley, but why aren't you in love with Saquon Barkley? And they would tell me he wants East and West too damn much. And
Yeah.
you're right. They're right. And I think one thing that has bothered me about Barkley throughout his entire career, and I saw this back at Penn State, but like obviously at Penn State it didn't even matter because he was just the best player on the
Yeah.
football field. He's gonna make an impact no matter what. But he was too. I'm gonna give you an example. He's obviously a better player than he was, and this guy and this guy I'm gonna match the sport. But there's a comparison to be made. If Adam Dunn wasn't striking out, he was hitting a home run. And that's literally Saquon Barkley's running style. He tries to go for the home runs too much when in reality you can grind it out and get yards. And maybe that's one of the tactics to keep his body intact. I'm not sure. But it does get frustrating when you are trying to hit that home run instead of just trying to get some yards, and it cost and it cost you. It cost you. So one thing that I will say that having Saquon Barkley on the bench would have been great. Don't get me wrong, but DeAndre Swift. One thing I saw from last year, he was decisive, extremely decisive, and he's very very shifty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think that was an element that was missing from the Bears. I
I
mean,
would agree.
you had three backs, maybe not Khalil Herbert, but Dante Foreman and Roschon Johnson had the same running style. I think with Khalil Herbert, he's not that fast, but DeAndre Swift is fast. You get that fast shiftiness at the running back position, you win. And then he can receive out the backfield. Listen, I think he is quickly going to become Caleb Williams' best friend. And I think it was perfect to get him. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no issue with the deal, mostly because see what the other running backs got, and for the production that Swift had last year, I think Poe's got a damn steal.
No, and it's just the thing. Will Swift stay healthy? Well,
That's true.
I know he did this past year, but the concern is going to be there. And Swift is a guy. God, I hate that I just sounded like Chris Collinsworth right there. Caught myself there. When he was drafted by Detroit, I said, "Oh fuck, this guy is
Yeah.
terrorize us for a decade."
And here we are, and then they draft another SEC guy, and that's the guy we have to go, oh fuck for.
And David Montgomery.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, than other than that, I mean, Kevin Byard, I think that's a solid signing. It's not flashy.
I want to say something about that. I think it's very unfair because all I've seen is from Eagles fans that he sucks. Granted, I completely understand it, but who was not going to be bad under Matt Patricia? Because everybody was bad, and even the best players of the secondary was bad. I'm sorry. Listen, Matt Patricia, Matt Eberflus for a defensive coordinator. I may not like Eberflus, but I'm gonna give him the edge.
I'm gonna give him the edge.
Easily.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand that, he had a down year in 2023. And I don't want to go back 3 years here, but he was an all-pro. I know this sounds bad, but he was an all-pro 3 years ago, and
he's a playmaker.
Yeah.
He's a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's led the NFL in interceptions twice. Maybe.
Yeah.
I know for sure once, but I think it's twice. For in the context of replacing Eddie Jackson, I love this move because you could take a guy in the middle rounds of the draft if you want to, sit under Byard, learn from him. I mean, learn from one of the best safeties of the past 5 to 7 years in the league. I mean, you're getting a playmaker like Eddie Jackson with Byard, right?
Yes.
But he's 10 times the tackler.
Yep.
I mean, you're not going to have, you don't have a safety who's just diving at ankles anymore. Yep. I mean, that makes a difference.
It makes a big difference.
And $15 million over 2 years.
I mean, and then Simone Biles' husband can come in and replace him if that's the case. Who knows?
Oh my God! Yeah, what's his last name? Owens, right? Jonathan
Owens.
I mean, just at this point, brother, just do the Owens - Biles on your jersey because. But I mean, he's also another one. It's cheap as hell for him. I think it was a 2-year deal as well, like $5 or so million. Chump change for a backup who has been shown to be a competent backup at safety, at least.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't need to touch on fucking Brett Rippon and Matt Pryor. I mean, Pryor is just another backup. So whatever.
Big as hell.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's a big.
That's a mountain of a dude.
Oh, he's a big motherfucker. But before we just kind of touch on option, I have one more topic I want to get to with the Bears after this. But Darnell Mooney. I mean, I'm gonna tip my cap to him. $39 million for Darnell Mooney.
It may sound crazy to the average casual fan, but I can see into the future now. Kirk Cousins is going to feed him
1,000 yards.
He might get 1,000 yards. If not 1,000 yards, he'll get like 800 and 900.
And I mean, that's a combination of Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Darnell Mooney. I mean,
that's and they might keep if Atlanta was smart, and hopefully they're not smart. I think they would add to that wide receiver room because if you want, one thing we don't talk about right now is San Francisco is the top of the NFC. And then Green Bay, I would put them up top as well, along with Detroit. And I would say by default, Philly and Dallas. And I can say all those teams and still say the NFC is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one of those believers that Atlanta was literally a quarterback away from being a contending team. And I know Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is one of the most underachieving quarterbacks of all time, which is kind of like it gets kind of annoying talking about how he can win championships.
Is he underachieving? He was a 4th-round draft pick.
Fair.
And
very fair.
He has now made, I believe, $400 million in his NFL career with this contract.
Which, by the way, after Kirk Cousins retires,
all-time bag getter. Good for him.
After he retires, he needs to run a financial literacy class.
Yeah.
If you want to get paid, you enroll in a Kirk Cousins class of money. Simple as that. I mean, you want to talk about one of the best career, like if we talk about financially, I can't think of a dude who had a better career than him money-wise.
For what he's done? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I bet that man has so much goddamn, like, more money than we could even imagine banked away with what he's made. Because he's not going, he's using Cole's cash to buy his post-game presser outfits. And you know what? God bless him. God bless him. Yeah. And, you know, I know we just gave Kirk Cousins his praise, but Kirk Cousins is the reason why we're going to have a headache these next few weeks. That was a gut punch. A gut punch.
But I'm going to be honest, that was a gut punch. But I think the proverbial bullet to the chest was 5 minutes in between the Raiders being interested in Justin Fields and then they signed Gardner Minshew. When I told you, my jaw dropped because I couldn't believe that was the decision that they made. I mean,
hey man, he made a Pro Bowl.
That was the writing on the wall right there.
He made a Pro Bowl this year. But no, that I do agree that I think the Minshew news was more of a gut punch, but I never really thought there was any chance Fields was going to Oakland or Vegas. There's no shot in hell Luke Getsy would ever have. That man would quit his job. And he's the reason he lost his last job.
But let's talk about that real quick because there is a consensus now with Fields that he just wasn't that good. Luke Getsy gets a job, so maybe in NFL circles he wasn't the issue. You know, I'm gonna be honest. There's not a lot of non-Bears fans that watch Bears games. Unless you were just watching because you guys happen to be playing the Bears, that's the main reason why you're going to watch the Bears. But if you haven't, you'll see. You'll see. You will see. And I'm not saying by any means because Justin Fields has his flaws. Don't get it twisted. But you want to talk about a coach that did him no favors, which, by the way, when the Bears were the topic of conversation, a lot of people in media were saying this offense is simply not good and they're doing him no favors.
Yeah.
Why has the narrative flipped all of a sudden?
No, you're correct. And I heard someone say, I forgot what I was listening to this week, but in all circles in sports, right? Mm-hmm. People form their opinions. And I mean, I admit, I've been guilty of it too. The more I think of it, people form their own opinions, but they hear someone else's opinion, and then they think to themselves, "Oh, you know, maybe that is true. Let me go do my own research. Let me evaluate." And you're like, "Okay, I see that now, right?" Mm-hmm. And then it just becomes a fucking echo chamber where everyone is just, "Oh, they're saying this. I need to say the same thing and be on the same page and be in the majority." I am still a firm believer in Justin Fields. I think he can and will be successful wherever he ends up eventually. But that echo chamber is the reason for all of this madness surrounding him right now. And you have to just imagine he probably feels like absolute garbage right now with
Absolutely.
how this process is unfolding. I mean, I thought he was a surefire lock to end up in Atlanta. I mean, I legitimately would have been surprised if he played for any team other than the Falcons next season. Okay, that didn't happen. And then you're like, oh, Pittsburgh could be an option too. That was being heavily rumored. And they elect to go with a 30 whatever old Russell Wilson who hasn't been good in 4 years
Yeah.
to compete with Kenny Pickett. So, you have a 35 or 6 year old Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles tear. You have a Russell Wilson who seemingly is a locker room cancer everywhere he goes and has not been good in multiple years. You have Gardner Minshew. It's just what went wrong. And it can fall on polls for waiting too long. I mean, and now, Brandon, I'm going to say it. He's going to be a Minnesota Viking. And they said we weren't going to trade him within the division. The Vikings have expressed interest. Do you really think Justin Jefferson wants Sam Darnold throwing him the football next year?
Hell no.
Do you think anyone in that locker room wants Sam Darnold under center? You've seen the flashes with Field. You've seen him string it together for periods of time, but you've never seen him remain consistent with those flashes, right?
Yep.
You've never seen a fucking goddamn flash in Sam Darnold ever. Ever.
I mean, yes.
And what's going to happen is I think Poles is finally going to just have to bite the bullet, and Justin Fields is going to be a Minnesota Viking, and he's going to terrorize us for a decade.
I'll say this. I'm just hoping and praying that there's one team that saves us from doing that. It has to be the Seahawks. I would love Denver. Denver got nothing to offer.
No, that's why I haven't even talked about Denver. They have absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. But Seattle, I believe they have a third round pick. I don't think they have a second. Seattle is the only one that can save us. And the fact of the matter is that Field should go somewhere where they have a fringe number one starter.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the teams right now that have a fringe number one starter. If you ask me, Derek Carr is a fringe number one at this time. And
yeah.
And
but the problem is it just the Saints are in such a bad cap spot that they can't afford to take on that contract, and that's going to be the Bears eating it.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, I'm going to say this. They let arguably their most beloved player on that team walk to be a backup elsewhere. And granted, he was going to be a backup down there too.
Yeah.
You're letting your beloved Jameis Winston walk for, I think, $7 million.
I mean, listen, what we saw last year was that Derek Carr may not be able to stay healthy. And I'm going to be honest, I think Saints fans would madly fall in love with Justin Fields.
I think so.
I right now, because we're talking about Vikings, we're talking about Seahawks, and I just threw the Saints out there just to throw them out there. But there's got to be another team that's possibly interested. He's going to be a backup. He's going to be a backup, which I do think that the relationship between the Bears and Fields can be salvaged, because everything was we're gonna do right by Justin. And if that was the case, you would trade to
you would have been traded. Yeah.
So right now, I don't there's not many places where he could go. But like I said, I'm hoping and praying to the heaven above, it's not the Vikings, it is the Seahawks.
The Seahawks do make a lot of sense. They make the most sense out of anyone right now. I mean, and I mean, the Seahawks are not going to be good this year either. They're not. So if they make that deal, I genuinely do think that after week 4, 5, he's going to be the starting quarterback over Geno.
It's possible.
If he was traded there, obviously. And it's just, it's this offseason is only going to be more unbearable than we ever thought it was going to be, Brandon.
Yeah, and here I am thinking that this is going to be resolved quickly. You can move forward quickly. No, it can never be that simple if you're a Bears fan.
Yep. Yep. So to wrap up, I just want to ask you. Obviously, I want to ask you two things. What has been your biggest disappointment of free agency out of Ryan Poles so far? And what is one move he can make to get you back in his good graces?
My biggest disappointment is not attacking the edge market. Granted, a lot of money is being thrown out there for the edge guys, but I do not think it's the safest proposition to wait, possibly to the draft to address that edge position. And granted, you could get a rotational guy, which most likely will be a rookie if you do draft him. He's going to be a rotational guy, but you would like for a 3-down edge rusher that you could rely on. So that was most disappointing. But I'm going to set the standard high because right now, edge rusher is not a premier position right now in terms of the guys that's left. If you want to make a good signing, I say go get Derek Barnett. He had a very good end to the season with Houston. I think he'd be a good fit. But I want 2 wide receiver signings. Put money into that position because I'm gonna be honest with you, and you're gonna agree with me when I say this. If there's one position Ryan Poles is really bad at scouting, it's the damn wide receiver position. He sucks at it. That Velus Jones is a perfect example. And the jury's still out on Tyler Scott, which, by the way, I'm going to give him the benefit. I think he still could be a really good player.
I agree.
Especially in the system. But I do believe they need to sign 2 receivers. Now, who would my choices be? I think Tyler Boyd would be perfect.
I'm with you with Tyler Boyd, 100%.
He would be perfect as a number 2. But if you want a cheap guy that at one point had some really good production, but for some reason he fell out of favor.
This is exactly who I was going to say. I think
he went to another team and you didn't really hear much about him. I would go Donovan Peoples-Jones, man.
We are not on the same page. That was not who I was thinking. I do like that.
He'd be a good slot receiver if you ask me. And the guy can play. The guy can play.
I mean, he had. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not have 1,000-yard season with Cleveland?
If he didn't, it was just under 1,000 yards. I'm gonna double check that.
I'm looking right now because that would have been a no. Yeah. I honestly forgot that he was a free agent. If I'm being
I forgot he even existed. But I mean, I just don't understand how Cleveland he got buried on the Cleveland's depth chart.
He had 850 yards in 2022 with Cleveland. Okay,
I'll take it. He wasn't a number 1 guy either. I will take that.
Yeah, but
who are you thinking?
Curtis Samuel. So my reasoning behind Curtis Samuel is Ryan Poles wanted to have a guy in Velus Jones who, if he needed to, he can line up in the backfield. He can line up in the slot. He can return kicks. He can return punts. Curtis Samuel is a proven Velus Jones.
Yes.
Poles has been one in his time to own up to his mistakes.
Yes.
It's time to own up to his Velus Jones mistake and just say, you know what, fuck it. Let's cut our losses here, and it's Curtis Samuel.
Yeah.
Is that a flashy signing? Absolutely not. But he's been productive. He has been productive the last few years in Washington.
The only reason, and I would love Curtis Samuel, and even if you, so Tyler Boyd may cost you a little bit. Maybe. I don't know. But if you get a combination of those two, I think Ryan Poles would puke at the idea of giving money out like that. But I will say, if your top three receivers are those, is a DJ Moore or a Curtis Samuel and a Tyler Boyd, you get yourself flexibility now. Now
Yeah.
you can draft a edge rusher. I just think when you have, and granted, I'm gonna leave the door open, even though I know it's not going to happen. If you are looking at the possibility of drafting quarterback or keeping Justin Fields, you have to load up the wide receiver room. Point blank, period. I don't care who's on the center. It can be Tyson Bagent for all I give a fuck for. Load up the wide receiver room.
Yeah.
That should be priority number one.
I mean, it should be priority number one at this point, I think, even if it's not Justin Fields.
Yeah.
I mean, give this rookie quarterback a chance that Justin Fields was not given until it was too late.
Yeah, follow the Houston blueprint.
Yep. Right there for the taking, Brandon.
Literally. I just don't understand the penny pinching nature of a team that is top 10 in cap room. Mm-hmm. Get it done, Poles. Get it done. That's all I'm asking.
Brandon, you said it better than I could have. Just get it done.
Get it done.
With that being said, we're gonna wrap this episode before we get too angry because I feel my blood starting to boil a little bit here. So we will be back next week, hopefully discussing some type of positive news. I would say this show was more positive than usual today, but as always, water finds its level, and we got back to it. So with that being said, like, share, subscribe, and we will be back next week. Thank you.